Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Vishma Bhadabhang Smavarajagacharya, also associated with AC, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namachar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sagaho, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Siddhvaita Gadadhar, Mr. Gaur, Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Govida, Shamakunda Radha Kudda, Gidi Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Ki Jai, Navadaptam Ki Jai, Gang Jamuna Tulsi, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ananda Koti, Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Sanavetta, Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi. All glories to Sam, all devotees, all glories to Sam, all devotees, all glories to Sam, all devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhade Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 11, Chapter 1, Verse 6 and 7, I guess. Swamorcha lokalavanya nirmuktya lochanam ranam girbhista smaratam chittam padaistan ikshatam kriyaha. So Amurtya, by his own form, loka, of all the material worlds, lavanya, beauty, nirmuktya, which takes away, lochanam, he attracted the eyes, nirnam, of men, girbi, by his words, ta smaratam, of those who remembered them, chittam, mind, padai, by his feet, tan ikshtam, of those who saw them, kriya, the physical activities. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is a reservoir of all beauty. All beautiful things emanate from him, and his personal form is so attractive that it steals the eyes away from all other objects, which then seem devoid of beauty in comparison to him. When Lord Krishna was on the earth, he attracted the eyes of all people. When Krishna spoke, his words attracted the minds of all who remembered them. By seeing the footsteps of Lord Krishna, people became attracted to him, and thus they wanted to offer their bodily activities to the Lord as his followers. In this way, Krishna very easily spread his glories, which are sung throughout the world by the most sublime and essential Vedic verses. Lord Krishna considered that simply by hearing and chanting those glories, conditioned souls born in the future would cross beyond the darkness of ignorance. Being satisfied with this arrangement, he left for his desired destination. Purport: according to Sridhar Swami, these two verses indicate that Lord Krishna, having achieved all the purposes for which he had descended, went back to his spiritual kingdom. It is natural that people in the material world hanker to see a beautiful object. In materialistic life, however, our consciousness is polluted by the influence of the three modes of nature, and therefore we hanker for material objects of beauty and pleasure. The materialistic process of sense gratification is imperfect because the laws of material nature will not allow us to be happy or satisfied in materialistic life. The living entity is constitutionally an eternal servant of God and is meant to appreciate the infinite beauty and pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna is the absolute truth and the reservoir of all beauty and pleasure. By serving Krishna, we can also share in his ocean of beauty and pleasure, and thus our desire to see beautiful things and enjoy life will be fully satisfied. The example is given that the hand cannot enjoy food independently, but can assimilate it indirectly by giving it to the stomach. Similarly, by serving Lord Krishna, who is part and parcel of the Lord, will derive unlimited happiness. The inconceivable Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, by displaying his own true form, freed the living entities from falsely seeking forms of beauty other than his form, which is itself the source of all beautiful things. Simply by seeing his lotus feet, fortunate living beings could distinguish between the ungodly endeavors of the karmis who seek gross enjoyment for their own sense gratification and the practice of dovetailing one's activities for the service of the Lord. Although philosophers perpetually speculate about the nature of God, Lord Krishna directly liberated the jiva souls from all speculative misunderstandings about him by displaying his actual transcendental form and activities. Superficially, Krishna's personal form, words, and activities resemble those of ordinary conditioned souls. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that this apparent resemblance between the Lord's activities and those of the living entities is a merciful concession by the Lord so that the conditioned souls will be attracted to him, become eligible to return to his kingdom for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. By showing his own spiritual form and kingdom to the living entities in a way tangible for them, Lord Krishna drove away their false enjoying attitude and removed their long-standing indifference to his personality. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, if one can understand the position of Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will never again fall into the network of material illusion. Such a fall down can be avoided if one constantly hears about the unique transcendental form and beauty of the Lord from authorized Vedic literatures. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, Yam imam pushpatam vacham prabhavanti avapaschataha Vedavatarata parta nanyat astiti vadinaha Kama mana svargapara janma karma falapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bogaishvarya gatim prati. Men of small intelligence are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. On the other hand, certain parts of the Vedic literature are specifically meant to award material sense gratification to the conditioned souls, and at the same time gradually condition him to obey the Vedic injunctions. The portions of the Vedas that recommend fruitive activities for regulated sense gratification are themselves dangerous, because the living entity who engages in such activities becomes easily entangled in the material enjoyment offered and neglects the ultimate purpose of the Vedas. The ultimate purpose of Vedic literature is to bring the living entity back to his original consciousness, in which he acts as an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By rendering service to the Lord, the living entity can enjoy unlimited spiritual bliss in the association of the Lord in his own kingdom. Thus, one who seriously desires to advance in Krishna consciousness should specifically hear the Vedic literature that deals with pure devotional service to the Lord. One should hear from those who are highly advanced in Krishna consciousness and avoid interpretations that stimulate materialistic desires for enjoyment. When the living entity is finally able to see the difference between the temporary affairs of this world and the transcendental activities of Lord Trivikram, Krishna, he devotes himself to the Lord and removes from his heart the dark coverings of matter, no longer desiring sense gratification, which is enjoyed under the two headings of sin and piety. In other words, although people within this world are considered sinful or pious on the material platform, both sin and piety are performed for one's personal gratification. If we understand that his real happiness lies in giving pleasure to Krishna, Lord Krishna takes such a fortunate living being back to his own abode, which is called Goloka Vrindavan. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the Lord first gives a sincere soul the opportunity to hear about his pastimes. When the devotee has advanced in his spontaneous attraction to such narrations, the Lord gives him the opportunity to take part in his spiritual pastimes as they appear within this world. By taking part in the pastimes of the Lord within a particular universe, the living being becomes completely detached from the material world, and ultimately the Lord brings him to his personal abode in the spiritual sky. Foolish people cannot understand this substantial benefit offered by the Lord, but Lord Krishna acts for the benefit of such foolish people by saving them from their absorption in the temporary world of false enjoyment. The Lord does this by personally displaying his own superlative transcendental beauty, transcendental words, and transcendental activities. Srila Jiva Goswami has pointed out that the words tamo anaya tarisyanti indicate that although Lord Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, one who hears and chants about the activities, forms, and words of the Lord will get exactly the same benefit as those who personally experience these things as contemporaries of Lord Krishna. In other words, he will also cross over the darkness of material existence and achieve the Lord's abode. Thus, Srila Jiva Goswami concludes that if such an exalted destination is available to all living beings, it must certainly have been awarded to the Yadavas, who were personal associates of the Lord. It is stated in this verse that by his beauty, Krishna stole away the vision of people who saw him. Krishna's speaking was so attractive that those who heard him became speechless. Since generally those who cannot speak are also deaf, the Lord's words also stole away the ears of those who heard him, since they were no longer interested in hearing sounds other than the Lord speaking. By displaying the beauty of his footsteps, the Lord stole away from those who saw them the power to perform materialistic activities. Thus, by his appearance in this world, Krishna took away the senses of mankind. In other words, he made people blind, dumb, deaf, mad, and otherwise invalid. Therefore, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur asks, since he took away everything people possessed, who would properly call him merciful? Rather, he is just a thief. In this way, he indirectly offers the highest praise to the beauty of the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also points out that although Krishna gave liberation to the demons by destroying them, to those who were attracted to him, Krishna gave pure love of God and drowned them in the ocean of his own beauty. Thus, Krishna is not a person who gives charity without discrimination. And Krishna is so merciful that not only did he give the highest benediction to the inhabitants of the earth, but he empowered great saintly persons such as Vyasadeva to describe his pastimes with beautiful poetic verses. And thus, people born on the earth in the future would easily cross over the ocean of birth and death by those glories, which are compared to a strong boat. In fact, those of us who are now enjoying the glories of Krishna through the transparent medium of the Bhaktivedanta purports of Srimad Bhagavatam, by the mercy of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the fortunate recipients of the mercy of Krishna who are merciful even to persons yet to be born. Quoting from the Amara Kosha dictionary, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti has also stated, Padam Vyavasita Trana Stana Lakshmi Angri Vastushu. The possible definitions for Padam are that which has been decided, place of deliverance, fortune, foot, and object. Thus, he translates the word Padam as also meaning Vyavasita, that which has been decided. In other words, the statement Agat Svam Padam Ishvara indicates not only that Krishna went to his abode, but that Krishna realized his determined desire. If we say that Krishna returned to his eternal abode, we imply that Krishna had been absent from his abode and was now returning. Therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that it is incorrect to say in a normal sense that Krishna went back to his abode. According to Brahma Samhita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna is always present in his eternal abode in the spiritual sky. Yet, by his causeless mercy, also manifests himself from time to time within the material world. In other words, God is all-pervading. Even when present before us, he is simultaneously in his abode. The ordinary soul or jiva is not all-pervading like the supersoul, and therefore by his presence in the material world, he is absent from the spiritual world. In fact, we are suffering due to the absence from the spiritual world, or Vaikuntha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is all-pervading, and therefore Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur translates the words Agat Swampadam to mean that Krishna achieved exactly what he desired. The Lord is all-pervading and self-sufficient in fulfilling his perfect desires. His appearance and disappearance in this world should never be compared to ordinary material activities. Vishnu Chakravarti has quoted a statement by Uddhava at the beginning of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Uddhava compares the disappearance of Lord Krishna to the setting of the sun. In his purport to this verse, the Prabhupada has written, the comparison of Krishna to the sun is very appropriate. As soon as the sun sets, darkness automatically appears. But the darkness experienced by the common man does not affect the sun itself, either at the time of sunrise, or sunset. Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are exactly like that of the sun. He appears and disappears in innumerable universes, and as long as he is present in a particular universe, there is all transcendental light in that universe. But the universe from which he passes away is put into darkness. His pastimes, however, are everlasting. The Lord is always present in some universe, just as the sun is present in either the eastern or western hemisphere. The sun is always present either in India or America. But when the sun is present in India, the American land is in darkness, and when the sun is present in America, the Indian hemisphere is in darkness. Srila Jiva Goswami has quoted a verse from the end of the 11th canto that further clarifies that the abode of the Lord is as eternal as the Lord himself. The ocean immediately swallowed Dwarka, O Maharaj, taking away the Lord's personal abode, which the Lord had abandoned. The Supreme Lord, Madhusudan, is always present in Dwarka, which, merely by being remembered, takes away everything unfavorable. It is the most auspicious of auspicious places. Just as the sun appeared to be swallowed by the night, Krishna or his abode or his dynasty seemed to disappear, and actually the Lord and all his paraphernalia, including his abode and dynasty, are eternal in the same way the sun is always in the sky. Srila Prabhupada says in this connection, as the sun appears in the morning and gradually rises to the meridian, and then again sets in one hemisphere while simultaneously rising in the other, so Lord Krishna's disappearance in one universe and the beginning of his different pastimes in another take place simultaneously. As soon as one pastime is finished here, it is manifested in another universe, and thus his Nitya Leela, or eternal pastimes, are going on without ending. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the reservoir of all beauty. All beautiful things emanate from him, and his personal form is so attractive that it steals the eyes away from all other objects, which then seem devoid of beauty in comparison to him. When Lord Krishna was on the earth, he attracted the eyes of all people. When Krishna spoke, his words attracted the minds of all who remembered them. By seeing the footsteps of Lord Krishna, people became attracted to him, and thus they wanted to offer their bodily activities to the Lord as his followers. In this way, Krishna very easily spread his glories, which are sung throughout the world by the most sublime and essential Vedic verses. Lord Krishna considered that simply by hearing and chanting those glories, conditioned souls born in the future would cross beyond the darkness of ignorance. Being satisfied with his arrangement, he left for his desired destination. So these verses describe the thoughts of Krishna and how he disappeared from this earth planet, and also the reasons for it. So we see here that Krishna made some arrangement so that even though the Lord disappeared, it was not such a misfortune for everyone, because he left in such a way that even in the future people could take advantage of his activities that he had performed. So if people hear and chant those glories of the Lord, that is from Bhagavatam, they can get the same benefit as the people who were present when Krishna appeared on this planet over 5,000 years ago. So in that sense, there's no loss. But Krishna made up his mind to withdraw himself because that is the nature of the avatar. The form appears in the material world and it doesn't stay there forever. That form of the Lord will disappear at a certain point in time. So Krishna fulfilled his particular purpose in 125 years, and then he disappeared. So it's only a matter of how he wants to disappear in terms of appearances, because actually he doesn't disappear, he's eternal. So it's only a matter of making some arrangements so that materialists can consider him to have disappeared, but actually doesn't disappear. So that also is a careful arrangement of the Supreme Lord. And he does this in different ways, in different forms of the Lord. Yeah, he disappears in a different way as Ramchandra, or in a different way as Varaha, or some other form. So we have a very particular way in which Krishna disappeared, which is remarkable because it's not a glorious exit in one sense. The members of the dynasty kill each other, and Krishna gets shot in the foot and disappears. So it's not a glorious exit at all. It would be very easy for Krishna to arrange for some glorious disappearance, but he doesn't do that. He made a different type of arrangement here. And that's described in this chapter and the next chapter, where he makes some arrangement for a curse, etc. And then eventually he himself disappears, and after the Yadus disappear. So he made this very particular arrangement for himself, for the devotees, and for the people, common people, so they could perceive it in a certain way. So this indicates, of course, that Krishna hides some of his nature from everyone, just as when he appears, often his activities look very human. So the asuras often take him as a normal human being, such as Sishupala. He did not consider him Supreme Lord, and he gave every excuse to show that he was a human being. So similarly, with the disappearance of Krishna, he made some arrangement so that those who were demonic could continue to think of Krishna as a material being. So therefore, when Krishna disappears, we should not take this as evidence that Krishna had a material body. This is simply the arrangement he made so that materialists could think he has a material body. But it's not actually that he made this arrangement to prove that he had a material body. Rather, it's his a method of deceiving the materialist, so they can continue to think of Krishna as a material being. So this is very carefully explained in the verse and also in the commentary, because the devotee should not become confused by this incident of the disappearance of Krishna. Sometimes the devotees, when they read this, they will get puzzled. Why did Krishna have to disappear in this way? And it doesn't look very good. So therefore, some care is taken by the acharyas to explain his disappearance, so that the spiritual status of Krishna remains. So the devotees understand that Krishna is eternal and he does not have a material form. So even though it looks like he dies and gives up a material body, actually that isn't so, because Krishna exists eternally in the spiritual world and he's not subject to birth and death. So therefore, what looks like a death when Krishna gets shot in the foot is not an actual death at all. So this is the understanding of the devotees, those who have faith in the eternal form of the Lord. They understand that there's a contradiction when we see this pastime taking place. Those who don't have faith and don't have knowledge, they will think that Krishna disappeared like a normal person, and he got injured and then he died, and he gave up a material body. So this is the arrangement the Lord made for people who have materialistic minds. It's often explained that the body that Krishna left was not his actual body, because how could that body die? His body could not die. So it's compared to the Vishwarupa, which is also a material body. The Vishwarupa is made up of material elements. So we call this a form of the Supreme Lord, but it is quite different from the spiritual form of the Lord. So therefore that Vishwarupa is considered to be a unadvanced realization or appreciation of the Lord, because it's actually made up of material elements, and its material elements are subject to destruction. So therefore the universal form is not eternal. So similarly, this body that the Lord left is considered to be Vishwarupa. It's like the material elements of this universe. It's a temporary form that was manifested for materialists. On the other hand, those who have spiritual eyes understand that the Lord maintains his pure spiritual form. Just as Krishna on the battlefield manifested the universal form, but he also was simultaneously still there in his other form, standing on the chariot. That was the spiritual form. The form of the universe that he manifested was this made out of matter. So that form can also exist simultaneously with the spiritual form, no problem. But it is different. It is made out of material elements, and they are subject to change and destruction, etc. So, therefore, this form that Krishna left should not be taken as his actual form, but something quite different. The first part of this verse particularly describes the attractive nature of Krishna. The Lord has a form, and that form has certain qualities, and all of these qualities and the form itself are very, very attractive. And in fact, they are not temporary, they are also eternal. So he had a beautiful form that was attractive to all eyes. He had a voice which was all attractive to all ears. And he had footprints or footsteps and whatever, which are attractive to everyone. So when people saw him with their eyes no longer were able to function in relation to seeing material objects because of the great beauty of his face. And similarly with the ears, when they heard his words, then their ears were no longer interested in material words. And when they saw his footsteps, then they were no longer interested in doing material activities. Why? Because of the great attraction of all elements of Krishna, his form, his words, his activities, etc. Everything was most attractive. So this indicates that people were completely engaged in serving the Lord with all of their senses. So with their eye they serve the Lord by only perceiving the Lord and not perceiving material objects. Normally the eye is used to see material objects, and with that perception then we get some sort of pleasure for ourselves. But when the eye sees Krishna and the beautiful form of Krishna, then the eye is not used for getting enjoyment for ourselves at all. It's there simply to appreciate the beauty of Krishna. And this becomes a type of service to the Lord. So we have engagement of the eye in devotional service. Seeing the form of the Lord in the temple is a type of bhakti. So how is it seva? It's seva because the sense is employed not for our purposes of getting pleasure for ourselves, but to glorify the Lord. So we see the form of the Lord, and then we consider how beautiful that form of the Lord is. We appreciate his beauty. So this is a glorification of the Lord. Similarly, when we hear the words of the Lord, then we understand that the words of the Lord are most perfect, and all other words are useless, no significance at all. So similarly, all of our senses are engaged. They give up their material propensity, and they simply serve the Lord and glorify the Lord by their activities. So that is the nature of the Supreme Lord. So that form of the Lord, therefore, is quite special. It makes people give up material activities completely. They no longer use their eye and their voice and other senses for material activities. And how is that possible? Because it is the form of the Lord. It is absolute. It is spiritual. It is most attractive. And therefore, people will give up the material propensities and engage in devotional activities using their senses. They will not get any material karma for this at all. Rather, they destroy karma by these acts of engaging their senses for Krishna. So, that is the nature of Krishna. So, how can he be a material being at all? People, by engaging their senses, destroy all their karmas. They don't create karma, but they destroy all their karma in relation to the Lord. So therefore, that the form of the Lord is very, very special. It is not a material form at all. We see material forms, we hear material words, and what happens? We get bondage in karma. We don't destroy karma, we create more karma. We engage our eyes and our other senses in the Lord, opposite happens. We don't create karma at all, we destroy all the previous karmas. So there's some special nature of that form of the Lord that does that. It's not a material form. So if that form disappears, that is not a normal material form that disappears with a death, etc. It is quite different. So that form of the Lord was established, and even though Krishna did disappear, he made arrangements so that people in the future could appreciate the form, qualities, and activities of Krishna in the form of the Bhagavatam. So even now, even though Krishna is not personally present, we can still engage our senses in Krishna by hearing the descriptions from Bhagavatam, and we get the same benefit from that. So therefore, Krishna did not forget the living entities in the future when he disappeared. He made some arrangement for them so that they could spiritually advance, in spite of the fact he was not personally present.
Like Lord is absolute truth, his words are absolute truth. So when Krishna tells that anybody who knows that my birth and death is transcendental will never take a birth again, and devotees, everybody knows that Krishna is transcendental, his birth is transcendental, his death is transcendental. Still, why it takes so many births for the devotees to cross over? Because Krishna is promising, his words are absolute truth.
Yeah. So, of course, it is something like, there's an example given in the Nectar Devotion, I think by Jiva Goswami. It's like the piercing of a pile of lotus leaves by a needle. So what happens when you pierce push the needle through a pile of lotus leaves? It actually goes through one lotus leaf, then another lotus leaf, then another lotus leaf, then another lotus leaf. So one after the other, it pierces different leaves. So similarly, we are in the material world, and by engaging ourselves in devotional service, we destroy all karmas and we increase our bhakti until it is perfect. But it goes through stages, just like the needle goes through one leaf and then another leaf and another leaf. So one by one, the different karmas and obstacles and anarthas are destroyed, and the bhakti increases bit by bit. So that we can say it's, in one sense, an instantaneous process. At the same time, we understand it is a little gradual in how it develops. And it also depends on the manner in which we perform that bhakti. So if we do it with aparadhs, then it is much slower. If we do it with anarthas, it is also a little slow. So that's called bhakti abhas or namabhas. If we practice pure bhakti, it becomes quicker. And if we put more endeavor into it, it becomes quicker. If we do it very properly, it's quick. If we do it a little bit, laxly, then it becomes slower. So depending on the nature in which you perform that bhakti, then it may be quick or slow, depending on the, particular person.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, like it is mentioned in the purport, like when Krishna is there in, he simultaneously present in spiritual world and material world also when doing pastimes. So what about the associates of Krishna? Like they are also simultaneously present both the places.
Yeah,
like
so we have
how
Nanda,
they expand. Or
in other words, if Krishna is in the spiritual world, then he must have his associates there. So all the gopis are there, and Nanda and Yasoda and the cowherd boys. But they're also here in the material world, so they also expand.
also
Yeah,
expand.
and by the will of the Lord, the jivas also expand, so they're also there, and they're also in different universes simultaneously. So yes, the jivas also expand by the will of the Lord in different places, material world, spiritual world, and in different universes. By the will of the Lord, of course.
Well, we see that in many places, acharyas give nice explanations for the meanings, for the implicit meanings reveal us. Here in this purport, we see that Krishna is blamed for taking away whatever the devotees have by their speech or anything. The different things are explained. But why the acharyas couldn't explain that these things are given away by the devotees rather than Krishna taking it away, so that Krishna would not be blamed for these activities?
Well, the examples are given that, for instance, Hari means the one who steals the heart or whatever like that. So it's an attractive nature of Krishna that the senses and the mind automatically get attracted to Krishna, whether we like it or not. So that's the intent, to show the great attractive nature of Krishna. Just like Shishupala was an enemy of Krishna, yet he got attracted to Krishna in spite of the fact that he was an enemy. So he began to think of Krishna all the time. Why? Because Krishna is most attractive. So even against his will, it happened. Of course, the devotees are not doing it against their will. They're trying to concentrate on the Lord. So in that sense, no, they don't have any, they're willingly doing that. Still, if we're in sadhana, we do have obstacles. And those obstacles, again, will create, you can say, a barrier to spontaneously serving Krishna. So, nevertheless, the Lord also, because of his attractive nature, will overcome all of those obstacles and help us concentrate on the Lord. So in that sense, it's the Lord's attractive nature rather than simply the jiva's will that's there to serve him. Of course, if there is no will on the part of the jiva to serve him, that means he's an asura or something. Still, there's attractive natures there, but if we serve him voluntarily, that is considered better, and therefore those persons are called devotees. So we encourage people to become devotees rather than asuras, because they're voluntarily serving the Lord. But even there, the nature of Krishna's attractive features are such that they also impel the devotee to become attracted to the Lord.
When the Lord makes his appearance, the conditioned souls have material senses and imperfect senses, but how are they able to perceive the Lord?
No. So, they cannot perceive perfectly. Just like we chant the holy name, the name is non-different from the Lord, but we do not realize that perfectly. When we do, then we can actually, when we chant the name, we see the Lord. When we hear the name perfectly, we see the Lord and we participate in his pastimes. But that happens only in bhava and prema. So similarly, we can see the Lord either through the descriptions or through the deity, etc., but we are not seeing perfectly. It's definitely the form of the Lord, and because we have devotion, we can appreciate to some degree, but we don't see perfectly. So we can say it's like an abhas, it's a dull likeness of the Lord, but it's not perfect yet. And we will see that form in bhava and prema, not before that.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki. His Holiness